Love is all is love is all love is all is love is all.
Hello!
Wow! Well done. What a beautiful intro. Congratulations. That looked great, sounded great. Well done.
Hello and welcome to Pray Love, hosted by Deb Mabry and Dave Rogers. We join you here on Facebook Live on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. We come together to share spiritual topics, which of course involve just about every kind of topic. We try to get at the rawness of mental health, which is something we're talking about tonight. We talk about what is this? Are we involved in a matrix, or are we just flesh and blood here, just pushing through life? Like, what is this all about, and what's the meaning behind this, and what is our purpose? So we look forward to these conversations. And before we begin, as you know, Dave is going to do a blessing of the land, and I have a little feedback here somewhere, so I've got something going, Dave. So if you could just take over there.
Sure. I would like to share our land blessing, where we bring in an appreciation of Mother Earth and Father Universe. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties, is within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon, Wampum Agreement. Mother Earth, Father Universe, all of our guides, ancestors, divine wisdom, compassion, and love, may you join us tonight for a conversation that may ebb and flow, that may serve, and that perhaps some of the information or questions that you ask are going to enlighten and add value to people who are a part of tonight and who might share this and who might be able to find ways to deliver a message that love, compassion, curiosity, and patience may serve.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And Dave, how would you like to introduce what we're going to be talking about tonight?
Well, today we really wanted to bring some of our discussions to the forefront of resourcefulness, and whether there are resources available, or whether we're in a mindset of not having enough, or poverty mindset, or negativity. And we wanted to bring actually a symbol of Canada, which is Bell. And Bell has a program going on right now that's Let's Talk. When I first saw it, I actually said, you know what we really need is let's listen. Yet that was me responding to Bell's Let's Talk initiative. And it tweaked me that I said, too many people are talking too much. We actually might want to listen. And I took my own advice a little bit, and I went and explored their website, explored the initiatives they had. And then I shared a little bit with you, Deb, and you said, wow, let's discuss it, because they are aligned with many of the initiatives that Pray Love has brought to the forefront. Yet we also can invite all of our listeners to potentially look at their site, because there are funding sources there. There are collaborations. There's an immense amount of information. And when I went through it, I was smiling. I was saying, wow, another beautiful source of information and potential collaboration for you, Deb, in your professional work, for our beautiful friends at Gatehouse, and for anyone that is looking for something that I'm very passionate about, and that's public-private policy. And when you took a look, I'm curious on perhaps some of your first impressions, thoughts, especially whether you came in with your artistic eye, you came in with your certified psychotherapist eye. What eye got triggered for you when you saw the Bell Let's Talk initiative?
Well, originally, so Bell Let's Talk, I believe, came in 2010. And it came in because of years and years of stigma with regards to, the whole scope of mental health issues. And when I first heard about that, I was in a relationship with somebody who was struggling with mental health. And it seemed like it needed to be talked about a whole lot more. And it sort of resonates the same way that with sexual abuse is that, okay, let's just not talk about it and put it over there and forget about it and let's move on and things will be okay. Well, that's just not the case. So when I first heard about it and the money that they were raising, the initiative, put Bell on your social media, like 5 cents a pop, I think it is. Everybody who does the hashtag and people that were using their phones, they've raised a lot of money. So they took something that was stigmatized, and they got some pretty, amazing celebrities that came on board with this. So it brought it to the forefront. Who's the cyclist, the Canadian cyclist? Carla, what's her name? The cyclist. So somebody type it in there. She's the cyclist and the skater. So she came on board. She rode across Canada. So there were significant people that were getting involved in this and putting a spotlight on something that had been a taboo to talk about for a long time. So when I saw the foundation of what they were doing, I was very impressed. And I love it when people come forward with their vulnerabilities and just the rawness. And then you bring in the people like yourself, Dave, like Dave he's a deal maker. He's going to connect it. He's going to link in. He's going to bring in the perfect support team. And then when I did, look at the site, it's amazing, the 4 pillars, the initiatives that they're doing, and it's just growing. And all day, they were, I don't know if it's CBS or whatever. I don't have TV, so I watch the internet stream on it. But they were interviewing people about Bell Let's Talk all day long, from what they're doing in the police force, the first responders, what those people are encountering, like it's just all across the board. Anyways, I'm going on and on and on just to say I am impressed. And how about you? By you speaking there, I got goosebumps. Okay, so I'm really inviting Sherry and Shelley and the team to go out, and if you haven't checked it out, please do. And there might be a part of it that really resonates with part of your message, whether it is helping youth, or whether it's about suicide, or whether it's about different types of mental health that are facing parts of society right now. And I would love, and in fact, I did. As soon as I saw it, I clipped apart and sent it to a friend of mine who's a principal at a high school and say, do you qualify for this? It's $250 or $25,000, depending on what you're applying for. And it'd just be cool is that for corporation? Is that the education? Like, what is that?
That was for secondary schools. So basically helping secondary schools start an initiative at the school. And that's the type of thing that I imagine he is aware of it, because he has told me that his school did receive some funding from the Royal Bank. So there seems to be that awareness, yet I just decided to send it to him and inviting everyone today too. You go take a look and see if there's someone that you might share this information to. There might be another talk that we do on, okay, what are the ways to apply for funding? What are the ways to move this initiative? Because it's a big part of what we often say, Deb, when you and I are talking. It's like, practice makes progress, folks. I know we've all been taught practice makes perfect. Yet that erase. Practice makes progress. And if that's one thing you take away from today, and then you're willing to go and practice. And the other big scenario these days is, if you're going to start something new, be willing to be bad at it for a while. and then guess what? You'll evolve a skill and develop. Yet if you go in it thinking you're supposed to be perfect before you start, I think it's one of the harshest things that we can do to ourselves. So be nice, be curious, and that's what the Bell Let's Talk initiative really triggered for me. And I'm glad we're able to share it with people. And I'm encouraging our friends to share it with more people, because it'd be so great that in a month, or because right now, February 25th, a funding round is being completed. So within the next 2 months, one of our friends here might get some funding. Wouldn't that be a cool thing to share in the next couple of months?
Absolutely. And anybody who's involved in mental health, like, I haven't looked at the way the grant structure is, but I'm sure that there are like some big numbers out there, right, for big projects. And there are probably, smaller grants as well. And this is the thing, Dave. So, I mean, we've talked about this, right? So there's so much out there right now is that there's not enough help. There's not enough support, whether it's related to COVID or just standalone. I mean, this is not, mental health didn't somehow just get created because COVID happened. Mental health is a huge concern for a number of years. And now, is it amplified by COVID? Absolutely. I read some statistics this afternoon in terms of the kids' helpline. And I mean, the numbers were just astonishing to me, but it has doubled. We're talking millions of kids across Canada that are calling a kids distress line because of, the current environment with isolation. And I heard another thing yesterday talking to a friend too, is that the abuse, and I know this, I see this is part of what I do in terms of psychotherapy, but the abuse numbers are going up. The people are frustrated, they're angry at external, so then they pull it into the home, and that's where the release is, because a lot of people aren't going, to work. Anyways, I probably talked about 3 or 4 different things within there, but there is support. So let's talk about, where is the support, and why do we hear over and over again? I don't know, people, if you're listening, you can make comments, please do. It's like, though there isn't enough, but I mean, I have clients who are getting funding for therapy. I do.
I'm looking around and just seeing that there is a lot of support. There is a lot of programs. There are a lot of willing people to listen and to share and to serve. And so that's my curiosity, is with this abundance, where is the gap and what can we do to fill the gap? And we're going to be sharing today definitely numbers to call and outreach programs that can be serving. And so I think it's a little bit of BS. And when I say BS, I'm saying belief system. And so when you're down in your pit, if I'm using the grief model, and you get into that depression, you're not looking for help. So maybe the first thing to do is to blame that there's no help. Yet guess what, folks? There's help. And I'd love anyone to actually share with me that there's a gap, because if we can identify some of the gaps, then we can contact the Bell Let's Talk and figure out a way to maybe bridge the gap. Now, where one of the gaps I have noticed is a similar gap that I imagine they're having with delivering the stimulus checks, or delivering, if somebody doesn't have a home, if they don't have an address, if they don't have a bank account, maybe those people are finding it very difficult to get some of the resources that could be serving them. And so perhaps that's one of the areas that there are outreach programs, and what can we do even better there? And that is the question. It's a sort of a coaching question. What can we do even better? It delimits the blame and it looks for solutions. Yeah, this is about being part of the solution. This is not about burdening and blaming and piling on. No. Pray to Love is about looking for solutions. Let's move it forward a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. And, there's so much on social media. And listen, we all get to the point where, we kind of, frustrated and whatnot. But the thing is, if we're looking through a filter of there's always a problem or things never work out, then we're going to find that, or we're not going to try. And listen, I'm not minimizing when somebody is in a depression, when somebody has lost their job and they think they're going to lose their home, the mind goes into survival and it's not thinking clearly. It's not pausing. And it often can't think about, okay, well, who can I contact? And that's not like, rainbows and unicorns is coming to mind. Sometimes when you get on a call, you are waiting a long time because those systems are attacked. Those providers are working nonstop with calls. You look at the number of people that went on different programs to get support. That's a lot of volume really fast. So of course there are going to be concerns. There's going to be issues. There's going to be missed calls. There are going to be checks that don't arrive on time. All of these things are real issues. But if you're not in a position where you can think clearly, it's hard to find solutions because you're only going to be thinking about survival. I understand this. I work with people like this all the time. I'm actually in the middle, almost done a course. I took an extra course just on compassion fatigue because it affects us all differently. And, I know from a lot of the training that I've done in, like the martial arts and just a whole host of things like that. It's to calm. It's to calm. And it's a really simple thing is when the anxiety is up, is put your hand on your chest and just breathe, push your belly in and out. Okay. Seems simple, but just to calm. If you can't think clearly, you can't find a solution. If you can't find a solution, right? A call to a distress center for support or a friend. Can you help me find something? People that aren't familiar with internet and don't have a clue how to, properly Google search these types of programs, right? Some support in around there. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, no, I love what you're saying. And I'm just bringing it into a context that because I spent a lot of time in Asia and training in Asia. And so what you just said about bringing the hand to the heart and to breathe into it, beautiful. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And it allows this yin, divine feminine energy to nurture. Guess what? There's some people like me in my 20s that didn't work. I needed something that was full combat yang. And so I did find it. I went to India and I did something called dynamic meditation. And that's when you go and you and you try doing that for 10 minutes. If you got kids with ADD, get them to do dynamic meditation and see how when they tap and they release all of those energies, how they can then focus.
Mm-hmm.
Get them to stop the Coca-Cola and the potato chips. Change the diet. Look for ways to tap into the natural dopamine, the oxytocins, the serotonins, and allow that to be part of a new regime of wellness. That's what I'm inviting some people. Dynamic meditation by Osho might be the remedy if you've got insomnia. If you go and do that 10 to 12 minute full on dynamic meditation, I have a feeling you might sleep a little differently.
Type it in, Dave. Type the spelling in there because people probably aren't catching it.
Sure.
I'm not catching it, but I'm familiar with it. And I've turned that on. You Google that. And there was a ceremony. There was a death in this culture. And then there's just this whole energetic meditation that they're doing. And I just stood there and I'm like, oh my gosh, it sort of reminded me of my martial arts training in sparring. And you just go volley after volley after volley after volley. I have no issues going to sleep after that. I mean, you have to give yourself a time to just calm because the system is all revved up. It's ready to fight, flee, right? It's ready to go. But then that's when you go home, maybe a warm tea, no caffeine, water, no TV, no cells, none of these things to stimulate our brain. That's the thing. We're so overstimulated too. Everybody's revving in survival. How do you just...
This system, it's also often called shaking. And so you just shake your body and you shake and shake and shake. And an incredible thing about it is that it revs the body up so beautifully. And then sometimes one of the processes can be ringing the bell and then going into stillness. And so it teaches the meditator, not that meditation is about just sitting there and being quiet. No, this is about going full out in your capacity and then choosing to stop and then noticing. And it's for me, the very first time, it was the most bizarre thing as the sweat's coming down my face, and I could have wiped the sweat, yet the thing was, no, it's supposed to be still. And so the sweat's coming down and you're noticing it, and you're just, it's a surreal feeling because perhaps for the first time, I'm making choices that the automatic system would have done. Oh, you're sweating, you wipe it away. No, you let it drip, drip, drip. Very empowering. And that's what we're here to do with Pray Love is to find some ways that might serve you, and through compassion and curiosity, you might share it with someone else. You might experiment it for yourself, and hopefully it can serve. And I think that's where we're coming from, that I believe the Bell Let's Talk initiatives, they have all these little projects. They've got the money, they've got the resources. And now they're asking you, perhaps there might be a program that could be started in 2021 that could make a difference.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's really about making a difference. First of all, to yourself, having compassion for yourself when there are, when there are stressors all around, having compassion for yourself and taking that time. And then also, one of the things that I say in terms of healing and overcoming things, the first thing is you have to accept what's there. You just have to accept it. We can't go, there's no going back. There's only going ahead. So accept the situation, the current situation, right? And you can make lists and, to really help to process what you need to process. The second is integrating it into your life, and people have integrated this whole situation differently. Some people have been more successful than others. People that can go online, they probably won't be going back to an office, right? Integrating it, and then also serving others. And when you're talking about that, with Bell Let's Talk, how many people are involved in there and serving other people? The one thing I do want to say is, before we get sued, everybody having a heart attack when you go and do that, don't engage in any of that type of behavior unless you've gone to the doctor or had a phone call or a video call, and make sure that you're okay. There's another level of that. And one of the things is to realize how much is held inside. I do a very, very simple little activity with clients. So to make them aware of how much they're actually holding within. And it's simple. I mean, you can squeeze and then release, squeeze and release, or you can squeeze one. And if you're at home, you can try this as long as you don't have any wrist or elbow issues. You squeeze that hand like crazy, and you just do that for the next 30, but one hand is open. One hand you squeeze really hard, and one hand you leave open. And in this hand, you think about all the things that are going on. I don't have this, I can't have that. And by the way, Sherry, there is, there's actually Sherry or Shelley, I can't remember, I don't have my glasses on, but one of you saying about free, keep it squeezed at this one's relaxed. There is, so this would be the end, right? There is therapy available out there. There are different places that you can go for free therapy. This is all that's wrong in life. And then when you just relax it, don't try to open it, but just relax it into the breath work, you'll find out that it doesn't open. When you relax it, it will not open. So imagine that being all that's going on in your mind, body, and spirit, and contracting the entire time. And so can this vehicle serve as well as this one? But sometimes we need this to appreciate this. So it's not all bad, it's just awareness. And you try to open it really slowly and it cracks. Very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Dave, I have a question for you. I'm going to run it across the ticker. Okay, the question is, have you ever gone to a therapist? Why is there stigma behind that?
Actually, I absolutely love my experiences with therapists. I've been to a number of therapists. This past year, I hired somebody for 6 months. It was fantastic. And I didn't need it. That was really, really cool. It wasn't I needed it. It was I chose it. And it was very empowering to do that. And it was.
Why did you do that?
Because I felt it would be a really cool experience at this time in my life to hire a therapist to go through the experience of hiring a therapist again. Because last time I went to a therapist, it was for marriage. So I went to a marriage therapist, and it wasn't a great outcome, yet it was still a great experience to see. And he was the top therapist in Singapore. So as a coach, as a mentor, I could learn from him at the very least, yet we went through therapy there. So there tends to be a stigma, yet I do believe it's improving again. There is a progress that people can benefit from having a therapist. The person who's probably done the most benefit in my reality for the last year has been Russell Brand, because Russell Brand, the famous author, actor, he's got his own podcast now, and he raves about therapy, that it saved his life because it got him off of all of his addictions and everything. So he raves about how positive the experience is with the therapist. And to be honest with you, I think it made it easier for me to go and actually engage my therapist because he had been such a raving fan of it. And even though I have been personally going to therapists for probably about 20 years, it's something that I intend to do for the rest of my life. Not necessarily when I need it.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? A friend of a friend, actually an employee of Bell. So in a lot of businesses, you get, your 5 or 6 sessions that you can have a year, right? You get your whatever, $600 or whatever. And a lot of people never use that. It's just sitting there and they don't use it. However, this person used it because she just felt that she had it. And why not go and just talk? Everybody has things to be processed. And yet, we're taught to keep those things inside and don't show vulnerability. And I didn't realize it. I honestly didn't realize it until I started at the Gatehouse. And then that was, in a group process, and just sitting there and watching people share and the insights in sitting there. I couldn't believe it. And then, of course, when I decided to become a psychotherapist, we had to have a therapist. That was part of the training, which only makes sense. And I think I mentioned this before on Pray Love. I went around to different therapists that were, some of the options. And I learned something from all of them. And I have a therapist. It's not like I'm going all the time because I feel pretty stable right now. But it's really good to know. And I just do that. I have a couple people and I just send them a note if I need to talk. Professional. It's just different than family or friends.
Shelley gave the answer you were looking for, though. I think have you ever gone to a therapist? Why the stigma? And it's shame or embarrassment.
Thank you.
I think that Shelley's right on, is that many people are still of the feeling, again, it's a men's syndrome. It's also definitely women are impacted by it. Yet my research in my book, Get 20/20 Vision, about men's mental health is that men are still given big boys don't cry. You have to fight. You have to pull up your bootstrap, pull yourself up by your boots. So there's all of these stigmas that are particularly brought into working with a therapist, or it's identifying with a weakness. And so these stigmas do still exist. And I hope that we're part of the encouraging component of it, is that it's actually one of the nicest things you can do for yourself.
You know what is so beneficial? And I just had a flashback, actually. My mother, when I would have been, 14 or 15, my older brother was struggling. So my mother said, okay, we're going somewhere. Anyways, I'm in the car and we're going. All of a sudden, we're sitting in a therapist's office and there's mirrors on that wall. That old, okay, there's a couch. And I'm like, where am I? There's nothing wrong with me, right? That has nothing wrong with me. It's not my issue. It's somebody else's issue, meaning my brother's issue or my mother's issue. It's not my issue. And yeah, if anybody had ever found out that, I would have been teased and I would have been embarrassed, absolutely, at that time. one thing that I do want to mention, it's not only male, female, and I do appreciate, and I certainly believe that there's more stigma. Man is supposed to be stronger. Though I think there's some shift in that. I think it's also largely based on occupation. And you look at the number of suicides, that are occurring with first responders, like police officers that are taking their life. My heart just did a beat, like a beat that was an off beat, because there are so many, and you hear about it all the time. I don't know what the numbers are, Dave, but I know that that's one of the things, as I was listening to the Bell Let's Talk this week, or last week, that they were talking specifically about that. The name of it, I wrote it down on one of my sheets somewhere, but it's the blue something. Anyways, they're talking about police officers. I messed up my sheets when I came in here, but specifically police officers and firemen, fire people. You're supposed to be strong. You're not supposed to need to talk to people. Well, you think about it. The average person, the number of traumas, like significant traumas over a baseline, right, that really impact a person. The average person is hitting a certain level. You look at a police officer, a fire, what do you call them? Fire person?
Fire, yeah, well, okay. Traditionally we would say firemen,
firewomen, whatever. You look at them, their average trauma is way above what our system is programmed to manage. So normally you have a trauma, you deal with it in certain levels, and your body, it relaxes a little bit, whether that's cortisol, that fight, it just comes down a little bit and you process it. But these individuals are always at that level. And then every time there's a trauma, it's just like just a whack again. The poor amygdala is just like charged the entire time. And how do you process that? How do you deal with those images, those thoughts, the feelings, the body sensations that happen when you are witnessing those types of things, right? So really that stigma that they have, I mean, those are the people, my goodness, that need it more than I think pretty much anybody. And if you know somebody who's a police officer, now doctors, nurses, all of these people, they are ambulance drivers, right? Attendants. These are the people that need our support. And we don't have to solve any problems, but to sit there and just, I don't know what to say or do, but I'm listening to you and I'm wondering, I'm hearing you. Did you say that you're really struggling with this? Because would you like me to sit down with you? Let's go online and let's find somebody who specializes in, post-traumatic stress, because that's what's going on with these people. And they're wondering why, you're seeing frustration or anger, depression, anxiety.
One thing we might do is the miracle moment, magical minute. What would you like to share this week for a 33 magical minute moment?
Oh, where is it, Dave? You're supposed to go first.
Am I? Okay, I'll go first.
You go first. I can't find it.
Because I have a piece of art here today that is part of my journey this year. In fact, as I've explored 2021 and I've done my numbers and I've explored the relationship with the dragon energy, and we're going into the metal bull energy. And today is actually the transition day, is the first day of the Chinese New Year. And we'll be celebrating the Lunar New Year on the 12th and 13th, yet today's the actual transition day. It's also something called the Imbolc. And I would like to read this little poem. Is that okay, Deb?
Yeah, please do.
This is honoring the divine woman. And so, breathe into emptiness. Stir in the silence that winter gifted you. Touch new skin. The surprise aliveness. The contours winter revealed. There is an echoing silence that proceeds every new thing. Imbolc is the insistence of the spring waters pushing up through cold earth. It is the restlessness of birdsong, the persistence of the sap. It is the dark that unfolds around all that is stirring, saying, pace yourself, love. Inbulk calls us to be simple. We have nothing but what winter left us. We have nothing but our own stirring heartbeats and desires. Nothing but the fire in our bellies that warmed us through the deepest darks. It is time to polish ourselves, to clear, clean, hone, to stand in the barest simplicity of our aliveness and promise ourselves to service, to spring. Make a simple promise to our wholeness to becoming. Find the seed inside you, swollen with its own longing, that insists with all the force of life that it will sprout when the time is right. Simple, naked, clean, fiercely alive. Miana Welty, Mother Tongue Inc., 2020. This book is something that I'm journeying with this year. It's all about the divine women's cycle. It's called We Moon 2021. I'm not an affiliate or anything, yet I chose that this year I wanted to get closer to the relationship with the moon. It's already had a profound effect on my life as I've noticed emotional shifts on different days and an awareness that when the moon is a certain degree, it might trigger certain emotions in me. Some of them I might not necessarily be too proud of, yet I have been able to use this book and the wisdom of understanding all of the different moon cycles that have had an incredible impact on me on the journey. And so that is my magical moment that I wanted to share. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share. And how about Deb? Magical minute moment.
I love that. And, if you're listening, give us some feedback if you like our magical minute moments. I can't find what I had as my 33rd minute moment. But you know what? When you said that, this is what came up for me. And it's something a client actually said to me today in a different version. Everything is so fast. And the thing we don't put in the schedule is the time to be calm, the time to look inside and be peaceful. And something that I've said many times is put it in a schedule, right? And set your phone. If you set your phone at various times during the day, and then the alarm goes off, and whatever you're doing, you just stop. Like what you just read, Dave. What is the seed that is growing within me in this moment? I'm rushing, I'm panicking, I'm at a deadline. Or what is the seed at this time? Maybe there's a creative project. Maybe you're out walking your dog. It's really cold out there with the wind chill. But what is it that you're thinking? And isolate periods of time and actually think. Think about what you're thinking. Be the observer of your thoughts. We're not our thoughts. Step back and observe the thoughts in that moment, and then decide what seed you actually want to plant and to create in your life. I believe we don't do this enough. Everything is so rushed. And I love that you're watching the moon. And now that I have to be outside every night and it's dark and I'm typically up in the morning, I'm noticing the moon a lot more. And it actually has a very calming effect. So thank you for sharing that.
One of the things about the moon that I've been even sharing with my mother and father is I've often said to them recently, it's just, all of your ancestors looked at that same moon.
I know.
Isn't it cool
So,
that whether it's your dad or your granddad or your great-granddad or your great-great-granddad or great-great-grandma, they all looked at the same moon. And it gives me a nice little chill because I have said it to my parents. And now my mom's sort of reminding me sometimes when she sees the moon and the full moon comes out right next to her kitchen, and it's allowing her to connect to her ancestors in a loving, caring way. And that's new for her because that's not something that she really explored too much on the spiritual side yet. That's been a huge joy for me in the last year to really introduce spirit in a different way, and now getting those words back from them too. Because if I just would have went full blown spirituality on, they would have said, "Get away, crazy guy." Yet I think it's coming through in some of the acts of service that while they still think I'm crazy guy because I am.
That's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's I think that we learn in a number of ways, and I think sometimes we just need to be ourselves, and the people that are curious or drawn to us, they will learn from us. And your mom is a sweetie pie. She just has this calmness, and I do see a lot of you just in those times of dropping off the dog or picking up to do some filming. But she just has this gentleness about her that I really do appreciate. And when you're talking about the moon, this is another thing in terms of mental health, and people will believe it to different degrees, right? We're looking down so much of the time, and I do believe it affects our thinking and our biology. And I can attest to it because Sunday I spent almost the entire day looking down because I was studying a few things, and I was reading. I read a whole book on the weekend because I had told myself I was going to read a book a month, and I hadn't finished one. So I had to finish it on Sunday, but I was looking down. And didn't I wake up Monday morning with vertigo? And I'm like, whoa, I've never experienced that before. I've had an occasional dizzy spell, but I really do believe that looking down, the cell phones constantly, the computers, depending on the angle where you have it, if you're typing, you're looking up, like we're doing this motion all the time. We're not looking up at the moon, walking and looking at the sky. Most of the people that are walking, I would say 50% of the people that I see while cycling, they're looking at their bloody phones on a beautiful path. I just want to just run them over sometimes. Get your head up and look, take in the senses. What can I see as I walk? What do I hear? What can I smell? If there's something to taste, snowflakes, activate those senses and focus on the breathing. There's so many different little things that we can do. Dave, there are so many people, I don't know if you hear this or not, but so many people say, I can't get out, I'm locked in my home. I'm like, I don't know about you, I'm not locked in my home. I can go out every day and exercise. I mean, we've lost some freedoms, absolutely, but we can still get out. It's not that we can't get out.
Is it appropriate to ask what sort of crazy things do you do that? Like when I see some of the things you do with your bike in the middle of winter, like that edges on a little bit crazy to me. Yet, do you call it that, or do you call it something else?
I'm just switching up that you're not alone up here. I think this is really important. This is kind of fun playing with these things.
Yes.
No, none of the things that I do I perceive as crazy. Sometimes they're out of a box. In fact, most of the time they're out of a box.
Okay, so you call it out of a box. Well,
out of what would be the norm. I don't think that I've been in a box very often in my life. I believe we all think differently, but again, once I went to the Gatehouse, I realized how much different that I think from even the people that were in the room. In those type, and at university, I took also a group where I spent time in a group, and I realized, wow, what's going on with me? I'm not thinking the way a lot of people are thinking. But, when I was 5 years old, I was, skating, go across the street and skate, and I wanted to play hockey. Well, the other girls didn't want to play hockey. Well, I wanted to play hockey. I loved hockey, and each different step along the way, there was something that didn't quite fit, that in some cases I got teased for doing or didn't. And I just decided, I don't know why, well, I believe it's a spiritual thing. I was put into the system to be a certain way, and I try to honor it as much as possible, as I hope most people do. I think most people do, but I like doing things that are different and unique. And if I'm afraid of doing something, if I'm, like trance dances and walking across fire, going to Indonesia to go into this small area and traveling there like by myself, that was nerve wracking, but I wanted that outcome, like when we went to Bali, right? It's a quiet, long drive to get out to that resort. But I think it's so important to challenge ourselves and to different degrees, or to give back, to do something, to stretch ourselves. What is the maximum growth is between, getting support and getting challenged. And, when I signed up to ride across Canada, when I wasn't a cyclist, there were two groups of people. Some that said, you are nuts, and what are you doing? Who do you think you are? What are you doing? You have to raise, the goal, $25,000, and you're going to cycle, And then the other people were like, oh my gosh, you have so much courage. I can't believe that you're doing. What can I have happen, right? So, but that's the thing, when your mind is functioning not in fear all the time, then you can do these things. But like with Bell Let's Talk, a lot of people that get involved as the participants, or the people that want to support other people, they realize that there are people that struggle when we have depression and anxiety, and a whole host of the other type of mental illnesses, bipolar, borderline personality. When you have pieces of those, you can't stand back and think about it. You're not thinking about your health in a lot of situations, right? So the people that are then overseeing those people, how to get people involved in the process. Did I answer your question, Dave? I'm going on and on and on tonight. Well, I think we're both really passionate about this topic. Is anybody saying anything on Facebook, by the way?
Actually, a great word is used. You're very adventurous. And Vicky shared that when she goes to nature, she likes to have her camera because it's one of the ways to express creativity by taking pictures. And I agree that that's something that I do. I think I laugh at myself a little bit that I do like taking those pictures. Yet this past year has been such a year of creativity, because I had the breakthrough with my therapist about being willing to draw and to paint and to color, and it's just been absolutely great. And I even have behind my shoulder, I even have, like, this year I've even got like friends that come visit me, and just flowers. And
wow.
This guy just blossomed, but now he's going to blossom again. And so I've got all of these around my room here, and I've just been so engaged in connecting with creativity. And when that little voice comes in and says, you got no skill, you got no talent, you're going to make a mistake, it's just been grab my hand and say, have fun with it. And so, and again, it's truly been something that's taken 50 years to heal.
Do you know, Dave, you've often talked, at least with me, with regards to challenges that you had in your 20s, right? What advice would you give to, people in around that age right now, in particular men that are really struggling? Like, there are so many individuals that have graduated, whether it's high school, college, university, they haven't even been able to go, to a celebration, isolation, and people still have to pay for the schooling, talking college, university. What advice would you give to them starting out and having this sort of, this COVID hanging over their heads? And,
it is cool. It's a great question. And one of the things that I've loved about the last year is I've also been working with a 21-year-old, and we regularly chat and we talk about things that are going on in his life. And 2 weeks ago, he came down with COVID, and we talked through that. His whole family came through COVID, and then he didn't know what he was going to do but for a job, so he was stressed out about that. And we just really had a nice conversation with questions to get him aligned on ways to go and interview and design his CV and to go out and meet some people and to do some interviews. And lo and behold, this week he got 2 job offers. And so
it's great.
My answer to the question is, it really is not so much about the advice, or maybe it is. Let's just breathe into that. I would love to have those conversations because it really is about asking the questions. So my advice to some of the young people is be curious, go and have conversations, go and perhaps do some networking on different platforms, on different onlines. If you can find a way of being of service, of being a teacher, of being a leader, and you might not feel that you can, but guess what? You as a 20-year-old can help a 15-year-old, can help a 12-year-old, can help a 5-year-old. And that's probably the elixir when I'm thinking of assisting people. If they can find others to serve, it often can really serve themselves. And I believe that if it becomes too extreme, then they might become a bleeding heart. So yes, everything in moderation, and it is about finding flow. Yet there is that flow. First, physicality. Work on being healthy. Healthy mind, healthy body. So that would be my first tip. Really change your diet. Decide to get yourself into good wellness, physical wellness. 2 is start drawing, writing, start allowing yourself to express. Go run if you want to run. That's the tapping into the individuality that's really required to design the strategy. Like if I tell a swimmer to go ride a bike, no, I'm smarter to ask them what do they like to do, what would they love to do, and encourage them to go do it. It doesn't matter if it's winter. You can still. And then so the first is taking care of the physicality. Second is to tap into the intellect, but also the spirit. And the third is being of service. And so it'd be that triad, that triangulation that would allow them to find a really nice GPS system. And that's actually a chapter in my book. It's gratitude, purpose, passion, and service, GPS.
Mm-hmm. Thank
How
you.
about yourself? Do you have a wonderful tip to give to any? Should I ask you a young person, or should we ask? Why don't I flip it? And what would be 1 or 2 tips you would give to an elderly that's feeling a little bit disenfranchised right now?
Sure. Again, a great question. And I actually work with a lot of people that are older, right? What I always ask, like, so people come and they're primarily depressed. What's my purpose, or just really struggling day to day. And the first question is, well, not the first question, but we get to this question. It's, can you tell me about what you loved to do when you were a child? Can you tell me the last time that you laughed really hard? What was it that you were doing? I was working with somebody who said they used to play music all the time and hadn't played for a long time. And then the same individual loved to write and hadn't been doing any writing. So it's kind of like pretty obvious to me that if you're not doing what you love to do, and there's stress in the other environment, or the environment that you're in, you're going to struggle, right? So some self-compassion, and give yourself something that you love to do. And sometimes it's reading. Well, I can't concentrate to read. Well, just get a simple, silly book if you love to read on a topic that'll make you laugh, or get an audiobook. If you don't have the energy, just get an audiobook. So it really starts with doing something you love. And you said it too. I mean, you nailed it on the head. It's really, listen, if you're not putting in proper food or nutrition or getting enough water, it's really hard to get this body going. You need to be drinking water. If you're doing a lot of thinking, you need to drink even more water. Eliminate the excessive, amounts of pop and sugary juices and all kinds of things. Get a smoothie maker and have a smoothie every day. So there's things that really don't require a lot of energy. And okay, so initially, if you bought some type of a blender or juicer, okay, so even a lower model, you pay $400. But what is the cost to not taking care of your body and not, giving it the proper nutrition. And I do believe different type of meditations. Not everything works for everybody, because if you're depressed, you probably can't stay focused on anything, but you can listen to certain things, and it can take your mind on a little journey, and you can experiment listening to water. I mean, that's what I did years and years and years ago. And my brain would not shut down. It was the same repetitive thought over and over and over again. And I couldn't get rid of it no matter what I did. Right. So I just started saying the Lord's Prayer. It was the only thing that came to my mind. So that was the meditation, just over and over and over again. A thought would come. I'd find, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about that again. And then I would just put it in again. And then I bought a CD with just the sound of water. So, I mean, those are some of really basic things. So, and Bell, Let's Talk. They have an area on there too. A lot of resources. There's a list of people that have been served by them as well. That you can be. There's hope. The thing that we have to do more than anything is we have to have hope. If we don't have hope, we can't go forward. And there's always hope. It's what is that hope to you? And what is that hope that you can provide for somebody else as well?
That's great. I do believe that you've beautiful way to bring today's session. I think we're highlighting some of the great things that the Bell Let's Talk movement is attempting to do. If anyone who watches this today has a way to reach out, I think another thing that I really love that they're doing is they're sharing success stories. And so these success stories are people who have gone through the challenges. And that, again, if you're looking at, again, because I'm a social entrepreneur by nature, and if you're a business person right now and you're looking for some winning strategies, go to that website, because they've got a number of fantastic winning strategies that they're doing in communicating, uplifting, and sharing stories. And that's, again, a winning formula these days to engage. And definitely, if anyone takes a look at the site and they come back with some ideas, please write back a comment to us, give us some feedback, ask a question, and we'd love to use that in the design of future programs.
Mm-hmm. And let us know how you like all the new little display things.
I love them. I think you've done a great job. Thank you.
Thanks. So we're going to be sort of playing around a little bit with this in the near future. And we have some guests that are going to be coming to the show that are almost confirmed. So I'm not going to say yet. One person who is confirmed, it's the first Tuesday in March, is Gary Johnson, who's a friend of mine from years ago. And we're going to be talking about the Matrix. And we have Veronica DeSantos, who is Kwanja Nem, a master in martial arts. She's going to be talking about that path that she's had, and both very spiritual types of topics. And we have a couple other people that are coming on that I can't mention because we don't have a date yet, and they're not locked in yet, but they are going to be joining us in later February or March. So I want to thank you again so much for joining us here on Pray Love. And I'm going to try to do this little piece again. And we're going to let Rosemary Phelan sing us out. And thank you so much. Dave, thank you. And thank you for everybody watching this live or either recording.
Love is all is love is all love is all